Divine and royal greetings, family. Shayola Benta, along with Coach Shantae and Coach Latoya, back with another Build Through broadcast. We want to know, is your food killing you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, this topic was kind of spur of the moment because we have like a little agenda going on here. Um, but my husband came in today and he says, I got to give you your props. I said, why? He said, watch this video. So, as I watched it, a lot of what I've been striving to tell him and others, Dr. Price was just like, listen, this is what it is. So, it definitely caught my interest and it really is right in alignment as we prepare for our spring detox. You know, we've been having the conversation about whether or not detox is necessary, what type of detox to even do, what should you be detoxing, and all the things. So, we'll continue with the detox conversation, really, probably right up until our spring detox. So, Coach Shantae is queuing us up and getting us ready on our Instagram page. Feel free to visit us on Tech Collective TV on YouTube. So, we're going to get into this thing. Is there anything any of you would like to share before we get started?
I just want to say that Dr. Bobby is my friend in my head, and education over medication was like my number one read for. Well, let me back it up one step. It is jocking, vibing for the number one spot for my best read of 2022. It is one of those books that I am more than likely going to reread in 2023 because there's so many gems, so much information that is shared, like his experience and breadth of knowledge is so vast when it comes to the realm of holistic wellness. And he comes from that traditional Western medicine background. So he has the unique perspective of marrying those two fields, those two concepts and ideologies with experience from both sides. So I highly value any and everything that he says and does. I would love to order one of his fruit boxes. Like, yes, Lord, those fruit look
He
amazing.
has a fruit farm.
Yes, and that just is goals. Like, I'm like, what do I need to plant back here this year?
Mhm.
Because I'm definitely excited about getting my garden rolling again and all of that jazz. But definitely, anytime that you can listen in on Dr. Price and anything that he's talking about, go in open mind with a notebook because you will have a lot of insights by the time you're done.
I concur. I was definitely impressed, and you're right. You definitely have been um, bigging up his book throughout 2022. You did that. So when I saw his name, I said, "Oh, this is who Shantae
Mhm.
loves." So
Yeah.
definitely happy to see him in action. So I was thinking about which way I should come into this because either way, you're going to see a little backhand. So maybe I will do it this way. And we did actually put the full link. So we're going to toggle back and forth. We're going to unpack and share. So
Interview where somebody asked me, "Could you date somebody who ate McDonald's?" I was like, "Nah, not a chance." And he was like,
It's just
"Why?"
sharing the file to a box,
Because
not
he
the
told
actual
me,
okay,
book.
hold on.
and
Hold on. Y'all know we just be, come on, Shayola. All right, hold on. Let me do it one more time. I think I have to share the volume. I think that that's what I did wrong. Let me know how that looks. One more again. I'm going to go here and hold on. And oh, where did you go? Oh man, hold on. stand by while we work through these technical difficulties. It's here though. All right, let me know if you can hear it when I start it. Let's see.
The interview where somebody asked me, "Could you date somebody who ate McDonald's?"
How about now?
Not a chance. And he was like, "Wow."
We can hear it.
Yeah, we can still hear it, but it's on the StreamYard.
Can't see it.
2,000 people. What is the worst?
What is that
food
about?
You eat?
Do it one more time. Oh, this might have been what Mother was talking about when we did our last one. So what am I not doing correctly? Hold on, y'all. Oh, well, we don't want that. All right. I'll try it again. I'm going to stop the screen share. Hey, y'all. Thank you for your patience. And I don't know. Why do I do this each time? I'd be thinking I'm doing something, and then when I go live, it's just like, what am I supposed to do again? Shantae, we might have to give you the controls, honey, to work through this thing. Okay.
I've got it queued up if you want to switch it over.
Okay, so to switch over, hold on.
Well, I've got a present
Right.
option as well.
All right, so you want me to come out of it? Just stop my screen share?
Yeah.
Okay, boom.
All right, can you see the video?
You can see the screen. Yay! Well, kind of. I see it on the back end. So again, we're going to unpack a little bit of, is your food killing you? Here we go.
All right. So you guys just come on the mic and say woo or something along those lines, and that'll let me know to pause it so we can come back over here to the left-hand side. All right.
Okay. Sounds great.
And can you hear it?
Well, I hear a little bit. We don't see it on the screen just yet.
All right. See here now.
Oh, did I pass that energy on to you?
No.
I know, right? It's like, where are you, video?
Oh, let me read the tips on the screen. It says screen sharing is easiest with 2 monitors. So let me plug my other monitor in and see.
You have to use a different monitor? That's so much.
All right, and let's see if that is the magic button.
So while Coach Shantae is queuing up, we do have our spring detox kicks off on March 12th, but the actual journey starts on the 21st of March, and all of that information is in the description. So definitely feel free to take a look, and we'll move on from there. Okay, we see some backhand action happening.
All right. Can you see?
It hasn't come up just yet on our end. I see it backstage, but I don't see it front stage.
Okay. Do you have the option to add to the broadcast on your side?
To add to the broadcast?
Or to add that screen to the broadcast?
Boom.
Success. All right. We're golden. All right. So let's make sure we can hear.
The interview where somebody asked me, "Could you date somebody who ate McDonald's?" I was like, "Nah, not a chance." And he was like, "Wow." I was like, if we took a poll, like, and said, "Hey, 2,000 people. What is the worst food that you can eat? 90% of people
Yeah.
will say McDonald's.
Mm,
Okay. So if somebody's eating McDonald's, in my mind, if your standards are like that for what you put in your mouth,
yeah.
then now I got to question what you do with your body too.
Mhm.
Like I wouldn't, this is tough. I watch who I date because I understand like I get not only her energy, but I get the energy of everybody she's laid down with.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like that's an even more deeper penetration into your body.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Sexual energy,
Mhm.
sexual transmutation. So like the way I look at it is your lifestyle really shows what your standards are in other areas of your life too.
Mhm.
Describe myself in 2 words, rich and unemployed. These stones cost 2 birds. Let it count it when she bored. Deposit hit, checks clearing, ayy, nothing void. I know that ain't my ex calling, null and void. Where we going? Money going up,
All right,
money
welcome
counting.
to the Rich and
My
Unemployed
money
podcast.
going up.
I'm your host,
She
Jonathan
still
Duperton,
counting.
aka Finesse. And before we get started, make sure you guys check out the Patreon, www.patreon.com, Rich Unemployed. Make sure you catch some merch, richunemployed.net. And let's get started, man. I got this wonderful guy here. And go ahead and introduce yourself, man, because it's about to be a good one.
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Bobby Price. I'm a pharmacist turned herbalist and nutritionist.
Mm.
I started my journey by trying to heal people in the hospital and then went from pills to plants and started healing people with herbs and shifting their diet. And once I got pretty successful with that, I actually left the hospital,
Mhm.
took a job in Japan because they had like the greatest amount of what are called centenarians, people who live to 100, no disease, and eat primarily a plant-based diet.
Mm.
And so they had the largest population in the world, and they're a very small island.
Mhm.
And so I was there for like 4 years, learning all of their techniques and
Mhm.
learning a little bit of Japanese and traveling the world. And after I left there, traveled the world, Thailand, where else I go? China for traditional Chinese medicine, India for Ayurvedic medicine, Africa for herbalism, Honduras, Peru. Came back here, wrote a book called Education Over Medication, and it ended up being a bestseller. So that's me in a nutshell.
Hell of an introduction. The longest introduction I ever had. All right, let's go back. You said that you were working in a hospital trying to heal people in the hospital.
Yeah.
What was wrong with healing people in the hospital?
Well, the first thing that was wrong was I got diagnosed with high blood pressure when I was 16.
Mhm.
And I was an athlete, only had like 5% body fat, played basketball in college. So I was fit, but I was still unhealthy.
Yeah.
And so as I come out of school, start working in the hospital, I'm trying to heal people. Now I'm feeling like a hypocrite because I'm treating people with the same thing that I got, especially in our community.
Mhm.
And so I just sort of like said, you know what? Like I'm seeing people my age, like at the time, like late 20s, 30s, who are having strokes and heart attacks. And there was a point where I was like, this is going to be you.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you're a doctor in the hospital, like this is going to be you. And so I literally started trying everything. I mean, I changed how I exercise. That didn't work. I was trying diets like Nutrisystems and all that kind of stuff. That didn't work. And really out of desperation, I said, I'm going to go plant-based, no meat, no dairy, no processed foods for about 21 days. And in 21 days, I lost 17 pounds. And I had sleep apnea also. And sleep apnea causes high blood pressure. And so that resolved too. And the blood pressure normalized. And so essentially, once I did that, what happened was I was working at a hospital here in Atlanta. And I'm like the only black doctor with a white coat there. Not the only one, but one of the few and the youngest. And so a lot of times when black patients would come in, they'd see me and they'd be like, I'm gonna talk to him. After the doctor explains something, they're like, I don't know what the hell you just said.
Yeah.
And so as people were coming to me and they would get familiar with me, they were noticing like I had a new visible neckline now. My skin was looking different. I was looking like 10 years younger. It was like, what are you doing? So I started taking out my prescription pad and writing down what I was doing.
Yeah.
And people would call back and say, yo, that shit worked. And
So let's pause here for one
then
moment,
I started
Coach.
having people call up there like, yo,
Okay, so he said a lot, within the last or this first segment. What was your greatest takeaway thus far?
What he just said. Oh, go ahead, Coach Latoya.
Yeah, I was going to say that just starting off, I appreciate his well-roundedness. He's been able to experience working in a hospital, and he's been able to study different places, travel the world. He's now herbalist. That's amazing. So I appreciate he has it from different perspectives, and also he utilized himself as a client, because you are your first client. So I love how he was able to transform his own life and his own health issues, using more plant-based lifestyle and more natural ways of living. So I think that is a beautiful thing. And I wish that, we see more allopathic medicine and more holistic medicine come together. Like that's one of the things that I would love to happen, So that's what stood out, a big thing that stood out to me, and the importance of representation and how people that were Black would come up to them, because that's extremely important. That's one of the reasons why I strayed away for some years when I embarked on my journey, strayed away from going to the hospital, going to a doctor, all those things, because I wanted to be more holistic, but I also wanted someone that looked like me too. So, that's a big thing. So it was a lot to unpack, but yeah, those are the things that stood out to me.
Very nice. What about you, Coach Shantae?
Definitely agree with everything you said, Coach Latoya. Like, his experience is so vast. It's not a one trick pony type situation, so to speak. Like, he walks that lifestyle every single moment of every day on the cellular level, and it shows. And the other thing, this is not necessarily about the things that he said, but I appreciate that he is able to deliver his message and say what he needs to say in a no nonsense tone, and it's not aggressive. That's the other thing I really love about Dr. Bobby Price, because it's straight to the point. This is what it is, but it is not that aggressive, I'm the man type energy that I get from some others in the holistic wellness space. So highly appreciate that. But the one thing that really stood out, really stood out to me, was the prescription pad. I have found in our community, excuse me, my nose just has decided that she wants to be featured on camera as well. So I don't know what's going on here. But the prescription pad and the white coat, we as melanated people give so much power and authority to a prescription pad and a white coat that it is absolutely ridiculous. So the fact that he was able to take out his prescription pad and literally write down, juice some apples and throw some celery and carrots together and, eat some salad and all the other things that he may have written down on the prescription pads for these people. And they take it home and they become their own pharmacists. They become healer, and it is given to them straight from a doctor in the white coat on the prescription pad. Like, that is powerful psychology. And I love how he just did that. It was not something that he thought out like, well, I understand that my people like to do XYZ and I'll be able to deliver more. It was just, I'm a doctor. I have a prescription pad. Here you go. This is what you need to do. And I see it. I see it in my elders all the time. My aunts, my grandma, my uncles. If a doctor says it, it's gold. So I definitely appreciate that about him.
Yeah, I concur. That white coat and that prescription pad is like, that's the end all and be all for many in our families, in our community. So I agree that the representation, and even for his patients to see him go through a transformation, and what are you doing? Because you look great. So yeah, definitely that. All right, let's pick it back up.
Awesome.
Yo, my uncle, you helped my uncle, and I need that thing you gave him. And I'm like, wait, who is this?
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, I shouldn't have called. I just come up there. And so it was that point I was like, oh, okay, so what I'm doing, even though it's good, it ain't good.
Mhm.
Because, people realize that, like when you're doing that kind of good, when you're getting people off medications,
Yeah.
like it ain't a good thing for the hospital. It's
not.
good for the patient. And so that's why I ended up leaving the hospital. So that's how I was helping people, like shifting their diets. Like one of the things that I learned was
Today's episode is brought to you by Rich and Unemployed Clothing. Listen, have you guys checked out the website? Have you guys copped some merch? You can do so while watching this episode right now. So if you haven't done so, go ahead. It's right there at the bottom. Go ahead, click, go to the website, go ahead and copy some merch. Man, we got these new hoodies in. We got headscarves in. We got hats. We got caps. We got the black and gold. Rich and Unemployed cap. So make sure.
I was saying, come through with the sacred movement colors. All his
you guys tap in, grab some merch while watching this episode. Because listen, giving it to you good. Wait, pause. All right, back to the episode.
Here in Atlanta, they have a spot called Church's Chicken. And on Wednesdays, I didn't know this, but on Wednesdays they have this special. But I also was noticing like on Thursdays and Fridays or Wednesdays, that was when we had the most heart attacks, the most strokes. And so this person came in, had a heart attack. They were like 34 years old. And while they were in the hospital, their family bought them the Church's Chicken. And I was like, why would you bring this to him? He was like, well, he was at the Church's Chicken when he had the heart attack. And he left his food there. So we was bringing this food. I was like, this is probably what gave him the heart attack. Not in that instance, but over time. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how it started.
What's wrong with the community, right? Black community. Like we don't know what's proper, like what's the proper way to eat.
Yep.
Fast food, processed foods. Like my parents, she didn't understand that. Like my mom's from Haiti.
Okay.
And she didn't have the knowledge to she didn't understand like health, like eating. And she would feed us this bullshit, right? And she ate pork and chicken. Rest in peace to my mom. But okay, when she got sick, she had cancer, and I was like, this is what I already started my health journey, and I was like, Mom, you need to switch over to a plant-based diet. She's like, no. She didn't really believe in that. Like, it just wasn't a thing for her. Even in Haiti, when I went to Haiti, they just not on that. Like, Black people just don't know about health, and it's just not a thing. But back to like being in the hospital, like, okay, you went to school, learned about medicine, and when you're in the hospital, or when you're in the hospital, you get diagnosed with something. Their first option is for you to take medicine.
Yeah.
Not even say, hey, you need to do this, you need to get off this. And what do you see the difference between this medicine and the holistic route?
Gotcha. Well, this is really important for like your mom and her culture, because Haitian culture is very much African culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at like even Southern like Black people, like the culture of Southern Black people is very much African culture too. It's stuck the same. And so if you look at our original culture and you go back, I mean, you can go back 10,000 years, bro, to Egypt. Mm-hmm. They had these papers called the Ebers Papyrus papers. It was a list of herbal remedies and natural remedies that could heal people of diabetes, cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So the unfortunate thing is we've been in such a survival mode for so long that we don't really know our history anymore. We don't know what we're connected to anymore, because that's how we used to heal ourselves. And so the whole idea of, make thy food thy medicine, it really came from like Africa, because we were making food our medicine, but we went through this struggle period where we had to endure so much that unfortunately we lost our culture. So when you look at the difference between the two, holistic medicine, and then you look at, I'll call it conventional medicine. And the reason why I call it conventional and not traditional is because it's not traditional. The FDA was eventually invented in the 1906. So it's really only about 120 years old that we've been using modern medicine. Okay. And so when you look at holistic medicine stacked up to modern medicine, it doesn't like compare when you look at the time and distance over there. But when you
I guess we'll pause on that. What I
learned, and
what was that about? What was your takeaway?
I was thinking about just, you know, we put so much emphasis on the doctor said, the doctor did, that conventional wisdom of that particular type of medicine, that disjointed medicine, that you have a general practitioner, then you have a cardiothoracic surgeon, and you have your heart doctor, you have the lung doctor, you have the doctor for your reproductive system. You have doctors that specialize in all of these areas, and it is so disjointed. And there's no formal methodology for your heart doctor to communicate with your GP, or for your GP to communicate with your ENT. And so they're all giving you all of these different things, and there's no communication or collaboration between each of these professionals for the most part. And when you look at books like African Holistic Health by Dr. Laila Afrika, he actually goes into the systems of treatment and detection that were used in ancient kingdoms like Kemet, or ancient societies like Kemet. And it talks about how they use this ancient wisdom non-invasively to check the different systems of the body, and to use the medicine of herbs and plants and fruit, vegetables, etc., to literally heal people of all manner of disease and illness. And when you look at the fact that cancer is not a new thing, and all of these things are not necessarily new, they just were not as prevalent because people made different choices. It just is really eye-opening to see the conventional medicine in a different light. So that it just, I tell you what, just recent conversations have really got me looking at conventional medicine through an even more critical lens.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Before I share mine, Coach Latoya, what did you take away? What did you hear?
I just noticed how, as a culture, there's this cognitive dissonance when it comes to health, and how the family literally brought the person to chicken, and that was the issue, is the food choices. So that's just like a big thing, and it just makes me just think about, just in general, how there's this cognitive dissonance when it comes to health and wellness, not just from the physical standpoint, but the mental, and just the way the world just moves. It's just the addiction to pain and how that shows up in different ways. So that stood out to me. Another thing that stood out was how, also Coach Shante mentioned the separation of everything, like when everything is holistic. And I believe Dr. Afrika mentioned it in his book, or I may have read it in a different book, but it's like, as African people, it's not either or, it's and or both. So it's like remembering that that's more of a westernized white supremacist, or whatever you want to call it. That's their way of thinking, is the separation of things, when actuality is more about bringing everything together and seeing how your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, how that also impacts your physical and what you have going on. So it's so many layers to this that stood out. So I appreciate that he brought up that aspect, and the fact that, he brought up the person that's interviewing. He said his mother, is that his culture is based from Africa, and also how Southern culture is based out of Africa too. So it's like this way of being is very, has always been, it's more so about going back to what was already there. And that's how it's been for me personally. Like my journey is me connecting back to my roots, connecting back to my ancestors, connecting back to what my grandparents instilled in me about having their own garden, which was actually just a humongous field, and how they grew their own food, and they had more mayat. They purchased things from the grocery store, but they grew their own stuff too. They caught their own fish, they crab, they did all types of things, and I'm grateful for that. So that's a lot of what I do is rooted in that upbringing. So it's just, I love it all, what was mentioned.
And I love to hear it. I love that you said going back to what was already there, and that he mentioned that we've been in survival mode for so long that and disjointed that we don't even remember what our way of living and eating actually was. I was watching this documentary, and it was a they were interviewing and doing studies on different groups of people, and the Aboriginal Australian was one of the focus points. And they were asking them, well, what kind of diseases do you have, or does the community have? And it was high blood pressure, diabetes, gout, all of the things. And what blew my mind was the documentary was based on like retreats given by Caucasian people to help the Aboriginals go back to what they were doing prior to European invasion. Like you have Europeans now teaching you how to go back to what your culture was doing, which was actually the right way before their people came in to give you flour, sugar, and I think butter. It was 3 components that really was just mucus forming, thus causing them to have all of these diseases. I thought it was just so mind-blowing that, I had it all along, but then someone came along and told me that that wasn't the way to do it. And I strayed so far away from home that those same people or their offspring are now saying, oh, no. Actually, my ancestors had it wrong, or my forefathers had it wrong. You're actually supposed to be eating this way, or eating to or from your environment. You eat or grow where you are from, so it's just so amazing that, we have to now go around the Molly Mill, and so many of our family, friends, and community are like, when the brother said, my mother's from Haiti, and she's like, I don't want to do the plant-based stuff.
Yeah.
My grandmother's the same, like, I'd rather just take the medication, so it definitely is a mind hack. We're going to watch 5 more minutes of this. Oh, did someone say wow? Did I hear wow?
Yes, I was going to say wow. Just the veggie back on what you mentioned about the retreats. And that's why there's many people that do classes talking about that very thing, about how certain people they don't need to be doing all of that. Like there's a proper way to show support and to give back, but it's not necessarily in that way. Right. It's like there's a lot of classes about that. So yeah, they crossed the line. That's crazy.
I agree.
Yeah. This is a totally different topic, but one of the things that I do want to say is I would like us to do a deep dive into this whole vegan movement, plant-based movement, because when I started my journey, I did not refer to myself as a vegan at all. And I think that during doing different festivals and different events, I kind of just went along with the title because that's what people identify with. But when I researched where vegan actually comes from, it's kind of like, again, one of those man-made things that someone made up to suit their lifestyle. But I don't necessarily identify with vegan because I like honey. I still wear certain types of shoes and have certain types of bags. Right. But I would like to err on the side of just being someone who embraces plant food more than anything else. But I definitely want us to dive into that difference between, because it really, for me, is a marketing ploy. Now you have all of these things that are geared towards veganism, which I think will be the next group of people who are going to end up really sick because we're just not going to be eating properly, like at all. But I won't go too far off on that tangent. All right, I
want to fed you back real quick, and then we're going to leave this 5 minutes. But vegan plant-based dynamic, I definitely feel like there are a lot of companies pushing processed foods into that space. Mm-hmm. When you think about it from the perspective that you just gave, like, this is my lifestyle and I want something that's going to separate me from the vegetarians because I took my stuff a step further and I did XYZ, and I want to make sure that people know exactly who I am when I walk in the room. I feel like that's where that came from. Then it came in the vegans. And then when the vegans came on the scene, it was just like, well, I'm not necessarily interested in giving up my honey and giving up my leather coat. So, I'm definitely plant-based. I do it for the animals, but I can't say that I'm 100% vegan because I do still have a leather coat and a leather bag, like that type of thing. Then that separation came onto the scene, and then companies were like, well, we were in the lab and we heard what you said. Now we've got a vegan processed meat substitute. We've got a plant-based processed meat substitute. We've got all of these different canned goods and things that fall into these categories. We're going to mark the price up on this because now we've said that it's vegan and plant-based, and we're following this trend, and all these things are happening. Meanwhile, the plants are just sitting outside soaking up the sun like, well, I don't
Maybe
know.
somebody will look over here.
Right. So I definitely do look forward to having that particular conversation. But
I do too. Yes, that's a whole mouthful. Like even when my book that will eventually come out, I talk about that very thing about where vegan comes from, and it's not really even that old. That term.
Right.
It ain't. It's like literally is as old as is around the same age range as my grandparents. Okay, so it's not that. So that's I look forward to that.
Okay,
most
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. All right, let's give Dr. Price 5 more minutes.
All right, let's do it.
It made so much sense to me because I was a chemistry major in undergrad, and what I noticed was when I got diagnosed with high blood pressure, what I learned was we tried to use chemistry to correct biochemistry. Bio means life.
Yeah.
Okay. Chemistry is just man-made. Okay. So we're using chemistry in the form of drugs to correct our biochemistry. And it doesn't work because most people will die on drugs. Most people will have a heart attack on high blood pressure medication. Most people will have a stroke on high blood pressure medication. So it helps by lowering the blood pressure, but what it doesn't do is correct the actual issue. It doesn't address the cause. Okay. So what modern medicine does is manipulate biochemistry. Okay, it'll lower your blood pressure, but that doesn't mean that it's correcting the issue.
Right, it just hides. It's kind of math.
Yes.
Right.
What holistic medicine does is correct your biochemistry, and the way it does that, it uses nature or biochemistry to correct biochemistry, because that's what food is. Food is life, and when you look at minerals, vitamins, phytonutrients, bioflavins, all those type of things. Those are chemicals, but they're biochemicals. They're living chemicals. And so I always tell people, when you think about healing yourself, you have to remember, like, this body is a living thing, and real recognize real. The body's going to recognize something real versus if you're eating hot Takis and pizza, like, that's not real food. Your body going to have to figure out what to do with that. And if your body can't figure out what to do with it, it can't digest it. It means it can't break it down. If it can't break it down, it can't take any nutrients out of it. So even if it has nutrients on the label, it can't abstract those nutrients. If it can't abstract them, it means that it's going to be very difficult to absorb anything. And it's also going to be very difficult to eliminate it, meaning like you've eaten this food and now it can't go out of the body. Right. So now you got 10 to 25 pounds of undigested fecal matter rotting, fermenting in your gut. And people call it a fupa or a belly. But really what it is, you full of shit.
What now?
Pun intended.
Unintended.
I know when I was in the hospital talking to the doctor about like my mom's cancer, and I was like, well, don't you think she need to just like not take the medicine, just change the diet? He only knew one way.
Yes.
He was like, no. She needs these chemo pills and she needs to take chemotherapy. I'm like, but I'm trying to argue with this man, but he's not going like, because he only knows one way. And I think that do they just pay y'all to like not like tell patients to like eat healthy and go that route because they get paid off this medicine?
No. Let me explain why. Because a lot of people think like most doctors are like, like these unscrupulous people who have a master plan to kill everybody. They just don't know. Like they eat just as horrible as you do. And I learned this when I was in the hospital. We would have like potlucks and stuff. Right. And this doctor one day, he bought like a 7-cheese macaroni. And I was like, man, that's going to kill you. And he was like, nah, I'm just going to double up on my cholesterol medication.
Crazy.
You know what I'm saying? So like that thinking taught me that I mean, even in that moment, it was like, damn, they really don't teach us nothing about, you know, nutrition, health. They don't teach us how to prevent disease. They don't teach us how to heal ourselves. They teach us how to treat ourselves. And treatment is different from healing. It's very different from healing. And so when we go to school, what we're learning about is drugs. What we're learning about is chemo. What we're learning about is, you know, different therapies that involve big pharma.
Yeah.
And so really what doctors, pharmacists are glorified pharmaceutical reps. And because at the end of the day, the only thing that they're going to teach you or give you is prescription drugs. And here's the other thing. That's the only thing they can give you. Because the unfortunate consequence is if let's say, for instance, if I tell you eat healthy, take these herbs, and then you go home, what are most people going to do? Not do that shit.
No.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're going to do it for maybe 1 or 2 days, and then they're going to go right back to the hamburgers, blah, 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 blah. Now what happens when they have a stroke? Now you are liable as the healthcare professional because you didn't give them a prescription drug. And that's the thing about prescription drugs over like.
Okay, so we'll pause here.
Prescription drugs are.
So again, if you would like to see the video at length, of course, it's there in the the video itself, but there's also the link in the description. So I was hoping, I was like, dang, is that macaroni cheese and cheese part in the 15 minutes? When I was watching, I said, all we need is the first 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes. But the fact that here you have a healthcare professional that's bringing a 7-cheese macaroni offering, right? And he's like, well, I'll just double up on my cholesterol medication. It's not that he or she didn't know anything other than that's just the mindset, right? We have so many of our healthcare professionals, and no shade to any of them, but like he said, they eat like normal people would from the same diseases. So I love that treatment is different than healing. And they're not trained to get to the root. They are only trained to deal with the effect of things, you know, and we have to understand this. Healing and treatment are two different things. And I think that this is why this is such a passionate thing for me, because I've tried to do other things and just focus on those things. And it's like the Most High is like, wait a minute, I gave you an assignment. I don't care what you think that you can do out there. You need to be focusing on this health, because it doesn't matter how much wealth you have. If you do not have your health, thus, you know, like he said, we pass on to our legacy. So some people will say, and he mentions it in this video, well, I'm going to die anyway. But why return your avatar to the creator all beat up and messed up? And right. So now your ashes, your body goes back into the ground full of disease. So what comes back up? The same disease, because there was nothing that was done to change it. So, you know, I'm really a proponent on just this holistic health, because even our doctors, when we read Dr. Llaila Afrika's book, he's saying they didn't even get all of the education that our ancestors had to be able to treat. So if there are 10 levels and they only got 4 of them, there's 6 other levels of knowledge and knowing that is to be had. But we're regurgitating these 4 levels in ways that are just not beneficial to us. So shout out to Dr. Bobby Price for an amazing video. Okay, I yield the mic.
Coach Latoya, you want to add anything on that?
I would just say yes to everything that you just stated, Coach Shayola, because this was very insightful, and especially the treat versus heal piece or whatnot. That is extremely like important. And I just recall just working when I worked at, you know, a job, a particular job that was in my field. I worked with doctors, and I noticed how one of the doctors used to smoke cigarettes. That alone, that right there, just that alone with her, I was just like, it's just amazing how people will listen to others just only for their education, but not based upon the practical, like, how are you living your life? You know, to me, that is way more telling versus only the education piece, even though that is important. Is like, but are you applying this to your life? And is this, and what you being taught, is that even beneficial to the masses? So that's a lot that I recall overcoming as I after I decided to transition out of that particular field and tap more into the more holistic way of doing and being. So I find that this to be very accurate, you know, and that's why it's so important to see how people live and how they are versus just a title. Like, that's a big thing for me. And that's in all areas, not just health,
all areas.
Yeah.
See, you said all the mouthfuls. That was about 3-4 mouthfuls right there. And I just want to I had to take notes on when you were talking. So I could back on what you were saying. Yesterday I had lunch, or well, not lunch. We went to Mural City Coffee in Dothan, and I love that place. It's a rustic environment. They have coffee, but they also have a really huge loose tea collection. Like, they have herbal teas on the whole of one wall, and you can go in there and you can pick out a tea and you can sit, sip, and just savor it. And it was such an amazing experience. I love going there. But I was talking to a lady that I met like towards the beginning of my healing journey, where I had made the decision that my health was going to be the central focus of my life. And at the end of our conversation, she said, in the realm of talking about health coaching, she said, our job is to give the knowledge and provide the guidance. And it just tied directly into what Coach Latoya was saying, as far as when we look at our medical practitioners, are they giving us guidance based on the lifestyle that they are living, or just on the books that they have read? Are we giving them this authority based on their education and credentials, or what we are seeing them do in their own lives and in their own families? That for me is something that really does matter, because I know myself personally, I didn't feel comfortable coming to people saying, hey, buy this, you know, plant-based, vegan, vegetarian food for me, when I was not living that lifestyle. I was still, you know, eating some salmon on the side, you know, and it wasn't until I got to that place where I was actively living that life that I became confident in my ability to guide others. So when you work with the coaches of the Emerald Green Collective in our upcoming 21-day detox, you're getting people who have taken the time to go through various processes to get to the point of living and embodying this particular body of work. And because we have taken the time to live this lifestyle and embody this particular work, it's given us a unique insight and a unique perspective that allows us to really be able to help people reach their health and wellness goals. Coach Latoya posed a question last week. What is your vision for your health? What is your vision for your detox? If you're not 100% sure what that is, come on in the room. Come join us, sit down, meet with one of our coaches. As part of our 21-day detox package, we are offering you a one-on-one 30-minute coaching session. You can use that time at the beginning of your detox journey to help you craft your goals for what you want your detox journey to look like, or you could use that in the midst of the detox. We're also offering a 10-minute tune-up that helps you to get in tune with what your body is currently experiencing. You're going to get the Veg Camp guide that was written by our very own coach, Shea Olabenta, which is a deeply comprehensive guide that will help you simplify the process of doing the 21-day detox. And you notice we haven't mentioned any products. What you need for the detox is going to be the things that you're naturally going to need to have: your groceries, your water, those things of that nature. We're not trying to get you to come in and purchase this big package of stuff that we send you. We want you to really learn what it means to detox your body, mind, and spirit. And this is a process and a practice that you can do over and over and over and over again once you have the basics in place. So go ahead and visit us online at www.theemeraldgreencollective.com to sign up for our 21-day detox program. It is definitely going to be a life-changing, life-affirming event. We would absolutely love to have you there with us to really make that, special, to help us to help more people, because that's why we do this. We don't do it because we like sitting around on camera in the middle of a Friday afternoon. It is really for us to be able to share this knowledge and share this information with more people. As always, replays will always be available. You can go back and tune in to anything that you missed. Thank you for tuning in with us. We are winding it down, but we do appreciate that you all joined us today, and peace. We'll definitely be seeing you next week.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.